executive session on two different matters, so we will go into executive session at the end of the meeting, come out of that and go into another one, and then come back and resume the regular meeting. This will be done at the end of this meeting. So the executive session is pursuant to KRS 61.8101B. It's in regards to deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency when publicity would be likely to affect the value of the property. The second executive session will be pursuant to KRS 61.8101C, and the discussions of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the public agency. So those will be the two reasons for our executive session at the end of this regular meeting. I know we have a lot of people in the audience this evening, and I think a few of them are here to take part in the swearing in of a new police officer that's joining the Bardstown Police Department. So I'll call on Chief Crexton to introduce our new police officer.
Hello, Mayor. So it's exciting to introduce Officer Connor Maloney. He was destined to be a police officer, I think, before birth. And so I just want to touch a little bit on the commitment to the community from his family. So his family, dating back to his great-grandfather, who started in law enforcement, his grandfather, both his mom and his dad. He has two great uncles that are police officers, another uncle, another aunt, who's here with us today, and three cousins. So his family has served 193 years of law enforcement to the community. So it's definitely in his blood. We're really excited to have Connor here. When Connor was born, he was actually born they lived in Nelson County. And so then he moved away, and he has moved back with his girlfriend and is a resident of Nelson County. So he wanted to police in his community, and we're really, really excited to have him. Connor attended Western Kentucky University and transferred to U of L, where he is still in school, majoring in criminal justice. And so he's a lateral officer and will be solo once he gets done with training in a couple weeks, and be serving the residents of Nelson County. So we're really excited to have him. And after the swearing in, I'm going to have you introduce your family. They're great people. They're amazing police officers, and so we know we have high expectations from Connor.
Yes, ma'am.
Connor, if you'll join me up front here, we'll be swearing in. If you would like to stand up here and face the audience. It's my pleasure to administer this oath of office. I certainly want to welcome you. I think your resume speaks for itself. I don't think I've ever met anyone that has a lineage quite that long in the profession that they follow, but maybe it wasn't even an option for you.
I think it wasn't. It was in my blood.
But we're certainly happy that you've chosen Bardstown and chosen our department to become a police officer. I wish you all the best. So if you'll raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky so long as I continue a citizen thereof, and that I will faithfully execute to the best of my ability the position of police officer according to law. And I do further solemnly swear that since the adoption of the present Constitution, I, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state nor out of it, nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have I acted as a second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help me God.
So help me God, I do.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
So you've got quite a few people with you tonight, and I think we're all happy that you have such great support from your family. So if you would do the honor and introduce all this.
We'll start from the left down here. We got a great family friend, Herbert Schwartz. Been around our family forever. I've been like an uncle. My aunt, Kim Burns. My girlfriend of 8 years, who's been by my side through it all, from the first academy to now, Whitney Cardell. My loving mother, Kelly Maloney, who's again been by my side through it all. My grandmother, Sherry Owen. My brother, Oakley. Hey, buddy. And my father, Jeff Maloney, who's again been by my side through it all. A huge thank you to them. Without them, I wouldn't be here. They've pushed me in the right direction and done everything that they can for me. So Really appreciate it. I want to say thank you to everybody here for giving me the opportunity to serve in the community that I live in again. So I really appreciate it. Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Congratulations. Sir, thank you again.
Thank you.
Man, thank you. Congratulations. Sir, thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Sir. Sir, appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am.
And I did tell Connor and his brother Oakley that, you know, we do have a pretty busy schedule tonight, so if you all kind of decide that you've had enough of what's going on, you all don't have to stay for the full agenda if you don't like. So anyway, welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Connor and Chief Crescent.
Thank you.
Thank you all again. Appreciate it.
The next thing I'm going to do is got a Councilman Williams is a sponsor of this proclamation where we're going to do a proclamation regarding Black History Month. So, Roland, if you would like to make a few comments, what you were attending today.
Okay. Well, we were attending the Black History Month program in Frankfurt today, and it just occurred to me when I was having a discussion with Tom Hamilton, our principal. I was going to say Tom Hampton, I apologize, but with our principal, Chris Pickett. He said, "Do you guys ever do a proclamation for Black History Month?" So I called the mayor, and he couldn't remember if we ever have, and so I just felt like it was something that was fitting, and he agreed with me, and I really appreciate Lisa's efforts because she really exceeded my expectations on what she created, and I think it's good for the community.
Thank you, Councilor Williams, and certainly want to thank Lisa Burdette, the assistant clerk, for her fast turnaround on this, because we didn't want to wait till the next meeting, which would have been towards the end of the month. We wanted to recognize Black History Month, and there's a lot of activity in all our school systems, so we wanted to take part and let everyone know that we respect this month being Black History Month, and want to do this proclamation, which recognizes some contributions of some Kentuckians for their help in making a difference here. So, whereas Black History Month, also known as National African American Month, has been recognized by all U.S. presidents since 1976. Whereas Black History Month is a time to celebrate the contributions of African Americans who have shaped the history of our state and nation. We are reminded of our responsibility to respect and preserve this lasting heritage and culture. And whereas Black History Month reminds us of the struggles and personal sacrifices of African Americans and honors their outstanding contribution and achievements, especially in the advancements of civil rights and equality. And whereas Kentucky African Americans have made a great imprint upon our country's landscape, including Charles Anderson, who was Kentucky's first African American legislator in the South since Reconstruction. Mary Ellen Britton, who was a physician, educator, suffragist, journalist, and civil rights activist. Willa Brown Chapel, who was the first African American woman to earn her pilot's license. And Muhammad Ali, professional boxer, activist, philanthropist, who is regarded as one of the most significant and celebrated sports figures of the 20th century. And whereas our vibrant African American community continues to be a vital part of Bardstown's rich diversity by contributing significantly to all aspects of daily life. Now therefore I, J. Richard Heaton, Mayor of the City of Bardstown, do hereby encourage all Bardstown residents to join the celebration of Black History Month in Bardstown, Kentucky. So thank you all. Thank you, Roland, for sponsoring this proclamation. Okay. I'm going to move a couple of young ladies up on the agenda. We have a donation request from the Nelson County Community Clinic, and Councilman Jones is the sponsor of this, so Councilman, if you want to introduce our guest.
Sure. I am happy and proud to give my support and also sponsor this donation request from the Nelson County Clinic, who provides access to the basic health, vision, dental care, and prescription assistance, among many, many other things. And I'd like to introduce Margaret Neal and have her stand up and say a few things, if you would.
Thank you. I'm here tonight to ask the council if they would consider possibly a donation to help offset our overhead. As far as when we write grants, you write several grants throughout the year, a lot of the grants will not cover your salaries, your rent, and your utilities. So we have seen probably over since the beginning of 2006 that we have probably seen over 1,000 patients that has come through that door. We provide basic medical, dental, prescription assistance, Medicare benefits, counseling, and over-the-counter medications. All of that is to the patient at no charge except for dentures. If they need a set of dentures, the patient has to come up with half of that and we pay for the rest of it. So I'm asking the council if you would consider to possibly make a donation to the clinic to help with offset those costs. Because by us helping these patients, that keeps them out of the emergency room, and plus it keeps a happy, healthier community. Someone who gets a new set of dentures, that helps with their self-esteem. Plus it also helps them to be more gainfully employed. You know, they can go out and seek employment. So that's basically why I am here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. We had a $120,000 budget last year, but we provided $1.4 million in services because of reaching out to partnering agencies, Flash A Hospital, providing, you know, like colonoscopies and stuff like that. They provide financial assistance, so we're able to help those patients. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
I guess I'd like to open discussion by suggesting a donation level of $5,000 and see if the council would be willing to discuss that level of a donation gift from the city.
Councilman Jones, I'm comfortable with that amount. I have had an opportunity to visit the clinic, and on one other occasion I was able to get you a plumber or something, I believe. So they do a lot of worthwhile things there, and so I think they're an asset to the community.
Thank you. I agree with that.
I'm definitely in favor. They provide a great service.
And it looks like we've made $500 contributions, but is that as much as we've ever done here?
I think so.
Yeah.
I've asked for a sponsorship and before, like for the 5K, and you give us back what you're going to give, and that's usually just been $500. So yes, I'm asking for more.
Yeah.
I think up until last year or 2 years ago, we really didn't have a lot of money available for this other than discretionary funds that was in the city council, and that was only $10,000 a year. But now that we've increased that, I checked with our CFO. We have $22,000 remaining in this year's community grant, which will go through June 30th. I think $5,000 of that is already committed because we made a 2-year commitment to another agency that I don't think we've made that payment. So if we were to give this $5,000 to the community clinic and then the other $5,000, that would still leave us $12,000 in our community grant fund for the balance. And there's a few other people you can see that make some annual requests that we probably haven't heard from yet. But once this gets in the newspaper and on TV, I'm sure I'll hear from them. Because I know Ms. Hagan is up next, and that she's got something she wants to talk to us about following Margaret's presentation. Are there any other questions regarding this request? If not, I would entertain a motion then to approve the amount of the suggested donation that Councilman Jones has made, or if you'd like to make that a formal.
Absolutely would like to make that motion.
And I'll second it, Mayor.
So we have a motion by Councilman Dones and a second by Councilman Williams to contribute $5,000 to the Nelson County Community Clinic out of our Community Development Fund grant program. So a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried. And from the council and from the city, we would like to tell you, please let your board know how much we appreciate the work that they are doing. I know that this has been a great assistance to our community as well as our county. And it's, how many years now? Has it been 20?
2006, so about 13, 14
13 years.
Yeah. And it's changed mainly. Before it was like a whole lot of medical. Now it's kind of gone to dental. Dental's a big thing right now.
So
We do appreciate it, and I will pass that along.
appreciate all that you all do.
Thank you very much.
So I would next like to recognize Christine Hagan, who's with St. Vincent de Paul, and she's just here to kind of give us some information, and probably will return at another time with a formal application. So go ahead.
Is this
Christine.
good here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thanks for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Bread for Life Community Food Pantry. I'm Chris Hovan, the Executive Director at St. Vincent de Paul Outreach Ministries, a position I've held for 4.5 months. 4.5 months. The food pantry serves people whose income is less than 130% of the federal poverty rate and who live in Nelson County. The Bread for Life Community Food Pantry is a client choice food pantry, one of a handful of client choice food pantries in the state. That means that our facility looks like a supermarket. People can choose what they know their family will enjoy instead of being given a prepackaged commodity box. It started as a food pantry in the St. Vincent de Paul store. In April of 2016, the pantry moved to its current location in the Kobeck building. The client space is inviting, and the staff and the volunteer welcome our guests warmly. In everything we do, we strive to recognize Christ in our guests. 367 families from Bardstown used the food pantry last month. The 876 family members represented were almost 69% of the number of people helped in January. Meals from the Heart is managed from the food pantry also. That began in 2017. This effort is a partnership between the Sunflower Fund, the Guthrie Opportunity Center, and the Bread for Life Community Food Pantry. The Sunflower Fund has provided 2 3-year seed grants to get this program off the ground and supported by all people of goodwill in Nelson County. The Guthrie Opportunity Center has a grant to procure the food and prepare all the meals that are delivered to the homebound. From 0 participants in 2017, we now have 110 people receiving 5 meals a week at their homes. Of these 110 people, 69 participants are in the Bardstown zip code. So 63% of the program recipients. The meal deliveries are made by dedicated volunteers. The Bread for Life Food Pantry benefits from this grant also, in addition to having a little space for the meals from the Heart. It reimburses us for some operating costs and some salaries and wages. They also provide $2,000 a month for fresh produce that our clients can take home with them. That was history. Now there's now. We always need volunteers. We serve all of Nelson County, and increasing our volunteer pool gives more folks a chance to volunteer and keeps our volunteers that we have now from burning out. The benefit of the Bread for Life Food Pantry and Meals from the Heart to Bardstown zip code residents is substantial. It will cost $206,000 this year to run the food pantry. $38,000 of that is for Meals from the Heart. The share of Bardstown residents who receive these meals is $26,000 of the food pantry expenses. The food charges from the Guthrie Opportunity Center are $106,000, for a total of $132,000 for the Bardstown Meals from the Heart program. The balance of the $168,000 funds the food pantry. Bardstown residents represent over $115,000 of the costs of the operation of the food pantry. The generous 3-year seed grant expires soon, and I am tasked with coming up with a program that moves it from the Sunflower Fund to general support. The poor belong to all of us, and the solution to hunger and food insecurity in Nelson County belong to all of us too. We have church support of about $30,000, donations of $45,000, and community partners like Tri-County United Way and the Salvation Army provide another $30,000 in funding. That's a $100,000 gap, and that's not insurmountable. Support from individuals, congregations, businesses, I'll put your name in here, the City of Bardstown, will help close this gap. Please consider adding support for the food pantry to your next budget. Thank you.
And I apologize for mispronouncing your accent.
That's okay.
Common around here.
We're the only Hovans in the area.
My apologies.
Thank you.
It is a wonderful program, and I think she and I talked before this meeting, and they will be making a formal application for you all to consider, I think sooner than later. But the Meals from the Heart is a great program, and as she said, the majority of those recipients are right here. And when her grant expires, that one will also expire for the Guthrie Center. They're providing basically 110 meals a day, 5 days a week. So it's 550 meals a week, and that's why that number. So I think they do it for about $4 or $5 a meal, I think.
Almost 6.
Is it 6 now? Okay.
Yes, and they also are challenged with finding a way to decrease the cost of that program.
They're participating with Feeding America to sort of buy a lot of their food products to keep the cost down, and so it's a great partnership and it's a good service, but it's going to take money to keep it going. So just keep that in mind when you all make your formal presentations. I think we got the presentation tonight. We'll just get the paperwork in the future.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? Well, thank you for your presentation this evening.
Thank you.
And thanks for all you do for the food pantry in St. Vincent de Paul. Okay. Next item on our agenda, I'm going to call on Chief Mattingly. We have a proposal for a Unimac laundry system, and it's in your thing, but I'll let Chief give some background on this.
Yeah, what a Unimac dirt extractor is, it's a large industrial type wash machine that's specially made to wash firefighters' gear. If everybody's aware, now it's a big push on getting your gear washed as soon as you get back, try to cut down on cancer and so forth. Currently what we have at the station now is a little one that will wash one coat or one pair of pants at a time. And generally I have 6 to 8 guys on a house fire or a fire that needs their gear washed. This will wash up to 4 sets at a time, and actually they recommend 4 in it. So if one guy only needs to wash his gear, we'll have some old gear that we'll throw in it, it does it better. So this way it'll get washed and it'll get dried within a little, about an hour and a half. Where our process now, it can take all day long to get everybody's gears washed. This was not put in the budget for the new firehouse because we got it on a state contract price. So this is one of the items that we said we would purchase separate from the price of the new firehouse itself.
We're eligible for that pricing, whereas general contractors is not.
Right.
So it's the same. It was under the $30,000 limit where we would have to seek a bid. But under the state pricing contract, that's the same price for everybody. But we wanted to bring this to you all since it is part of our fire department construction project, so wanted for you all to hear about it and hopefully give your approval, because it'll be a nice new asset for their facility.
Chief, I've seen specialized systems like this before, and I guess, and I know you guys are all on top of this as far as the design, as far as the utilities required. I mean, is it going to take anything special that you may need in plumbing? I know this is like a hot water injection type, or
Plumbing, we shouldn't be an issue with. I've been working with the electrician up at the firehouse. We're trying to find out exactly what type of wiring. I'm not an electrician. He says it needs this. The contract, or the place we're getting it from says, no, you don't. You need this. But we think we have it all worked out,
Okay.
where everything's there now, electrical wise and stuff.
David might be a good person.
The dryer was supposed to be gas, but there was a goof up with the architect, and they called for a gas dryer, but they didn't run gas to the room, so it'll be electric, so that issue's been addressed also with the electrician.
thank you, Chief.
Any other questions of Chief Mattingly? If not, I did speak to our CFO Aaron, and this is not an issue because we're doing an internal loan for the payment of this construction project, so we do have funding available to cover this expense. So, that being said, I would ask for a motion then to approve the proposal from Unimac Laundry to supply this cleaning and drying system for the fire department for $16,141.
So moved, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilman Hibbs, second by Councilman Owens. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, and then next we have a bid tab for our Round Creek trunk line clearing and grubbing, which is related to our new upgraded sewer project. So I'll ask Jessica Filiatcher, our city engineer, to speak to this proposal.
We put out a request for bids for the clearing, the tree clearing and grubbing ahead of the actual construction bidding. And that the primary reason is timing, such that we can get all of the trees down in accordance with all of our obtained permits and bat habitat, and making sure that those trees get felled prior to April the 1st. The grubbing work can continue beyond that point, but again, because this is time sensitive and we want to make sure that when we get our final approval for authorization to go ahead and move forward with bidding of the actual construction work, that this work is already completed and we're not in the summertime where we would have to then incur additional costs at a higher rate. And again, we've already paid in at the discounted bad MOA fund for the tree clearing. So that's already been addressed. Our permits have been addressed. And these were the companies that submitted the bid. And we recommend awarding to Tree Works at $139,500 for the clearing.
We got these, and Jessica and I were going over these. I asked her if she did a little vetting, and you might speak to Tree Works work here in central Kentucky.
Yes, our design engineer actually had commented that they had recently done a project in Danville, Kentucky, and Danville was very happy with the job they had done for a utility, in preparation of a utility installation. I also contacted 2 other contractors that they had listed as a general that they had worked under before, and they've done a lot of work in Lawrenceburg, for a lot of work in Versailles, and some pretty big size projects in Lexington, again, generally for specific clearing, this type of work. And they, like I said, everyone had good feedback, and one of the contractors is just finishing up a project for us, Smith Contracting, at the Town Creek plant. So they do a lot of work across the state, and had commented that they always utilize them when they're needing a sub in their packages that they feel really comfortable with their workmanship and their price. So I feel comfortable after contacting those references because I personally wasn't very familiar with them in going ahead and awarding to them.
Jessica, why is trademark so much more? Any idea?
I think they overthought it, to be honest. I'm pretty sure that all of these contractors, and Dylan might be able to speak to this too, did visit the site. We had the project staked so that everyone could come through the project scope and just really get a feel for where the project was, what the terrain was. And I really think perhaps they just overthought some of the criteria. That's the only real answer I have, making sure they covered all their contingencies, knowing that there is a tight timeline.
And then also what we're kind of seeing also in the construction industry now too, is some of the companies are so busy that they're running tight, but they put out some bids sometimes and they say, well, if we get it, we'll take it because we're bidding it high sometimes. I don't know that for a fact here, but I think we've seen that in some of our other bids on stuff right now.
That could be it too, a strong market where there's more projects than contractors to perform the work. They can put higher margins on things and, still if they end up getting the work, great, but they'll generally have to juggle to get it done in timelines. But
any other questions of Jessica on this bid for the clearing for our sewer line upgrade? And this is a budgeted amount for this project, I think, right?
yes, we had budgeted amount for the entire project and it would include this scope.
So if I could, then, if there's no other questions, ask for a motion then to approve the recommendation from our city engineer to award the contract for the clearing to Tree Works for $139,500.
Make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Buckman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Hart. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from the January 28th? There's no corrections or additions. We can approve them by unanimous consent. Okay. Under financial report, I'm going to call on Aaron to give us a little background on this bond payoff proposal that we have here. Aaron.
So, yeah, if you all have had a chance to look in your packet there, we're approaching the end of our 2010 series bond. Its final year is this year. This again was purchased or issued in June 15th of 2010 for a principal amount of $14,030,000, and it had semi-annual interest payments and annual principal payments each year since then. This was a debt of our combined utilities account affecting sewer, water, and our cable internet funds. So just recently on January 30th, we had a T-bill investment mature. That amount was $3 million. And again, this was an investment held by our combined utilities account. So I was looking at a way to pay this off because our final year of the bond issuance is at 3.2% as the interest rate, and all current T-bill investments are running about a 1.4%. So it makes sense for us to, rather than reinvest that full $3 million, to go ahead and pay off our bond issuance early. Down at the bottom portion of page 1 in the savings column, if we did nothing right now and we just reinvested at 1.42% and paid the just kept our bond as it was, it would cost us about $22,000 in the difference between what we're going to pay in interest and what we would earn in interest. This would affect all the funds, the sewer, water, cable funds, basically showing as an increased expense and then transferred to bond sinking. And then the bond sinking fund would have an exact replicating amount of entries for revenue and expenses.
The timing of this is important to note, because what Jessica just started talking about, we're getting ready to finish this issue. It's about, I think if I remember right, it's about $800,000 a year debt service to this project, which will now be retiring. And so this new sewer project that we're getting ready to take on, we'll utilize some of that fund that's been retiring that debt and start retiring the new debt. So timing is very good for that. She's not spending $14 million on the new project.
But we have plenty of other projects coming, so.
We've got some water.
Some needs.
I'm almost stealing her thunder right now. She's got something to announce here later that's going to, I think, make you all feel good about some of our funds and so forth. So we have done this in the past. We've also refinanced some projects in the past when the interest rates were such that you could utilize the savings by refinancing. So in this case, we've got $3 million that we, as Aaron was saying, would reinvest, but investing at 1.42, it's better to pay off a 3% debt with money that you're only going to get 1.42 on. So the maths there do, I think, justify this suggestion that he's made.
So the payoff is, the remaining principal is $1.24 million, and we have to give our bondholders 30 days notice. So in talking with the broker, he anticipates a payoff of April 15, 2020. So between now and then, it'd be the $1.24 million plus $14,769.78 in interest.
Has anyone got any other questions of Aaron on this recommendation to pay it off a bit early?
Makes sense. Good to me.
If I could then, I'd entertain a motion then to approve the, using the funds from this T-bill that recently came due to pay off the balance on this 2010 bond issue.
So moved, Mayor.
Do we have a motion by Councilman Williams, or a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by
Aaron, great job.
Very good. Second by Councilman Hibbs. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, now we have a first reading. I'll let Audrey kind of explain why we're having to do this as an ordinance. I think we previously addressed this as a municipal order.
Right, and so I guess for planning and zoning purposes, for consistency across all the jurisdictions that deal with planning and zoning, they had requested that we do it as an ordinance because I think the county addressed it the same way. So, so we have created an ordinance basically dealing with the issue that they had a hearing back in October, and I think we discussed it at our November meeting, or maybe the 1st of December. So anyway, do you want me to go ahead and read this, Mayor?
Councilman, introduce it, please.
I'd be happy to introduce ordinance number B 2020-04, an ordinance amending and adopting as amended the Joint City-County Planning Commission zoning regulation 6.11 Neighborhood Business District B1, Section 6.11D3. And please ask our city attorney to read the ordinance.
Ordinance number B 2020-04, an ordinance amending and adopting as amended the Joint City-County Planning Commission zoning regulation 6.11 Neighborhood Business District B1, Section 6.11D subsection 3. Whereas the Planning Commission held a special public hearing and meeting on Wednesday, October 30th, 2019 at 6:00 p.m. in the fiscal courtroom, 1 Court Square, Old Courthouse Building, 2nd floor, Bardstown. And whereas the Planning Commission recommended amending section 6.11D3 of the zoning regulations to allow a B1 PUD with uses not to exceed a maximum of 10,000 square feet of floor area in all village community character areas. And whereas the Planning Commission has requested that the legislative body of the City of Bardstown consider and take action on the proposed amendment. Now therefore be it ordained by the City of Bardstown that from and after the passage, approval, and publication of this ordinance, that the texts of Article 6 zoning districts are hereby amended as follows. 6.11D3, B-1 PUD neighborhood business, only in effect in the City of Bardstown and in strike the Deetsville and Hunters Village unincorporated, insert all village community character areas as established by the Nelson County strike 2020, insert 2035, a comprehensive plan. Strike amendment January 14th, 2002, insert as readopted October 25th. I think this should be 2016. It's not in the future, I don't think, so. So we can correct that, Gary. All ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. This ordinance shall take effect and be enforced immediately upon its passage, approval, and publication as required by law.
So, what they've done is just open this up to all the villages, and so all the incorporated cities and the Nelson Fiscal Court has to adopt this, so to be for the Planning Commission's regs. So, if I could, then I'd ask for a motion then to approve ordinance number B 2020-04, amending and adopting. I'm sorry, yeah. It's just first reading, we don't need to do it. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Now we got some voting coming up. Second readings. This will ask our city attorney to read ordinance B 2020-01 related to nuisances.
We're going to hear from you a lot, I think, for a few minutes. B 2020-01, an ordinance amending and adopting as amended an ordinance relating to Chapter 94 nuisances of the City of Bardstown's Code of Ordinances. The City Council of the City of Bardstown, Kentucky does ordain as follows. That amendments be made to Chapter 94 nuisances, Section General Provisions, subsection 94.03, certain conditions declared a nuisance of the City of Bardstown's Code of Ordinances as follows. General provisions, Section 94.03, certain conditions declared a nuisance, subsection K. Trees and shrubbery obstructing streets and sidewalks. The growing and maintenance of trees with less than 14 feet clearance over streets or less than 8 feet over sidewalks, or the growing and maintenance of shrubbery strike in excess of 3 feet in height within the radius of 20 feet from the point where the curb lines of any street intersects the curb line of another street. Insert that interferes with ordinary pedestrian or vehicular travel. No shrub shall be planted between the curb line and the property line of any street within a radius of 20 feet from the point where the curb line and or edge of pavement of any street intersects with the curb line and or edge of pavement of another street. All ordinances in conflict herewith are repealed to the extent of such conflict. This ordinance shall take effect and be enforced immediately upon its passage, approval, and publication as required by law.
Okay. Now that since it's second reading, I need a motion then to approve ordinance B 2020-01.
So moved, Mayor.
A motion by Councilwoman Hart. Do I have a second?
Second, Joe.
Second by Councilman Bowman. This is a second reading, so I ask for individual votes. All in favor then signify by saying aye, starting with Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Aye.
This motion was carried. Thank you. Then we'll move on to ordinance B 2020-02 related to tree preservation.
Ordinance number B 2020-02, an ordinance amending and adopting as amended an ordinance relating to Chapter 99, tree preservation of the City of Bardstown's Code of Ordinances. The City Council of the City of Bardstown, Kentucky does ordain as follows. That amendments be made to Chapter 99, tree preservation, section requirements, subsection 99.26, pruning, corner clearance of the City of Bardstown's Code of Ordinances as follows. Requirements. Section 99.26, pruning, corner clearance. Every owner of any tree overhanging any street or right-of-way within the city shall prune the branches so that such branches shall not obstruct the light from any street lamp or obstruct the view of any street intersection, and so that there shall be a clear space of 8 feet above the surface of the strike street or sidewalk insert and 14 feet above the surface of the street. Said owner shall remove dead, diseased, or dangerous trees or broken or decayed limbs which constitute a menace to the safety of the public. It shall be the duty of the city forester of the city of Bardstown or other responsible officer designated by the mayor to notify the owner of such real estate within the city of a condition which constitutes a menace to the safety of the public, directing the property owner to comply with this subsection. Said notice shall contain a provision for the property owner to abate the menace within 5 days unless the menace constitutes an immediate danger to the health and well-being of the public. If the menace constitutes an immediate danger, the owner shall abate the danger within 24 hours of receipt of the notice. Notice shall be served upon owners by certified mail, but if the whereabouts of the owner is unknown and cannot be ascertained in the exercise of reasonable diligence, the city forester shall make an affidavit to that effect, and the serving of notice shall be made by publication in a newspaper of general circulation for 2 consecutive issues. If the owner so served does not abate the menace within the prescribed amount of time, the city shall have the right to prune any tree or shrub on private property when it interferes with the proper spread of light along the street from a street light or interferes with visibility of any traffic control device or sign. All ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. This ordinance shall take effect and be enforced immediately upon its passage, approval, and publication as required by law. That was a summary, certified by me.
Okay. Could I ask for a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2020-02?
So moved, Mayor.
A motion by Councilman Doze, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hibbs, is there any discussion? I think if you've all received maybe some questions about who had responsibilities on certain things. We sent you a copy of the regular orders. It appears that in most cases it is the responsibility of the owner of the property to handle this maintenance and so forth of the trees. Now, I think there are some issues when it involves our utilities and that sort of thing, that involves the city. Sometimes we'll have to come in and obviously do maintenance, clear lines, and remove dead trees that might damage our infrastructure. So,
I think the question though was if that trees or shrubbery were on city property and it relates to your house or property. Am I not correct about that?
I'm not sure I understood the whole question, but again, nothing in this ordinance, in this change affects whatever those requirements are. We're just making a clarification on the height. So no other changes are being proposed or responsibilities trying to be addressed.
But is the next ordinance going to touch on that?
No, I mean, none of those are being affected really in that regard. But again, under the tree preservation ordinance that was just read, I think it's going to answer some of those questions because some of those, if it's considered a street tree, most of those classified street trees are covered under this tree board, and there's very specific guidelines and criteria and things that are spelled out within that ordinance. And I think within mostly the historic districts where there's larger right-of-ways, you don't really see a lot of street trees in really any other areas, and that's primarily because there's not enough right-of-way dedicated to allow for a street tree to be planted between the sidewalk and the back of the curb. It's only 2 or 3 feet in a lot of cases, so that doesn't really promote that as much. But I hope that answers, I think.
I mean, because in some instances, the tree board is actually going back and planting more
Correct.
trees in that area.
Correct. And that criteria is kind of established in those, I'm wanting to say it's predominantly historic areas, and I think that board has a map and so forth. I personally don't know exactly where all of those are because the arborist is generally involved in those situations.
So to clarify for me, and I think this is where we had a conversation on the first reading, was is there any instances where between the sidewalk and the curb is private property?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Especially instances where a private property owner has requested to plant something there specifically that might have that it's not a typical street tree, and maybe it ties more into their overall landscaping for their property and their style for their business or something, rather than having just a street tree where we typically maybe are having dogwoods on this street or something like that, that the tree board has actually tried to go preserve or replace something that was otherwise there.
And I understand that this ordinance is not shifting in any way,
Right.
shape, or form responsibility from city to the property owner. But I guess for my own clarification, you know, if we're talking about a tree that's canopy is in violation, in clear violation, and that tree happens to be on what's determined to be city property between the sidewalk and the curb, it's then the city's responsibility to do that trimming, or does it still fall upon the property owner?
I think historically, if that again is in that area regulated or by the tree board and the preservation committee, oftentimes those activities are taken on by the tree board and the city. There's instances where I think they've had assistance from the property owner, again, depending on what the nature is. I think if a property owner, for their own aesthetic purposes, wants to prune or trim a tree, sometimes they bring that to Philip or to the board. But again, I'm generally not included in those specific things, so that generally, again, goes through Philip Grubbs, our city arborist, and that board, for the most part. Again, and most folks tend to kind of keep downtown and those street trees relatively, pruned, and a lot of them are of age now that the canopy's not encroaching out into the sidewalks and stuff. It's really not a huge thing. We're trying to just make sure that when there are instances that folks are just maintaining their property and their trees, and to try to keep from a tree that's maybe on private property encroaching out into the street, that where dead limbs and stuff could fall, or they're getting very diseased, that they're taking precautions to make sure that they're not going to cause damage on cars parked on a public street or interfere with stop signs and visibility and so forth. So,
Jessica, I kind of understood it that sort of what Councilman Buckman is talking about. Those are, at least the way I understand the definition, would be street trees, and the ordinance does say in a different section that the city is responsible for maintaining, pruning, all that street trees.
And that's
as opposed to private.
That's where the clarification.
And the definition's not totally
it's not super clear, like I
but
read
it
it
says something about
once.
between private property and the street is what it defines a street tree as. So it's to that extent.
It sticks in my mind because Broadway is the big street here, because the setbacks are just massive. And that's where, everybody down there has a massive tree in their front yard. Not everybody, but, the old ones. And I just didn't want people to think, oh my gosh, these trees are my responsibility now. That's not what I was hoping was going to happen.
And I specifically, because again, Broadway is very unique.
Right.
It's the only street we have that is that wide. So I would, again, the tree board minutes would probably have better records on which trees were actually planted by the city and were considered street trees or maintained by the city versus those that were, just permitted to be used as part of the front yard beyond that sidewalk, because the right-of-way goes almost to the front porch.
Right.
So again, that would probably be, if you really had a question, you could bring that to the tree board, and I'm sure they could research that further if you had a specific tree in question. Best I know.
I feel better.
Should that be something that we should clarify, or is it a necessity to even clarify that?
I mean, I think I don't know if that's been an issue that people have come to the city. I mean, I don't know. You don't know what the problem's there until it comes up, right? As far as, at least for the purposes of this ordinance, I think we could pass this and then revisit it if we felt like we needed to, because the definition of street tree could be more clear. I never thought we'd debate a tree so much, but the street tree, it could be more clear that we're talking about whether it's in the right of way or not, because it refers to it as between the private property and the street, road, avenue, or however
It
it's
doesn't
defined.
present a problem with this ordinance, though.
Well, it's within the same, all the tree preservation is within the same ordinance, but at least this subsection wouldn't be affected by any of those changes.
Understand?
I think the question on Broadway is kind of a unique situation. I do know that in past on streets like Stephen Foster and South 3rd or South 4th, or whatever, there's been situations where the tree is between the the sidewalk and the curb, and it's diseased and it's presents a danger to pedestrian or traffic, the city has taken, because of the tree board's recommendation, a lot of times they have taken them down or done maintenance on them because it is a public safety issue. Now, I don't think we've been in the position where we've been pruning trees, 10 feet from the house on Broadway, because those trees probably were planted not by the city, they were planted by the owners. And the city is giving their use for us to know. Right. So, I guess we will revisit that at some time. Okay. I guess we need a motion then to approve this ordinance under B 2020-02.
I'll make the motion, sir.
That you already had.
Yeah, we have.
We already had. Councilman Bellington.
Okay, so we just haven't voted yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Starting with Councilman Hibbs.
Aye.
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 No, I got lost there. Okay, now we'll go to ordinance B 2020-03, streets, curbs, and sidewalks, chapter 96.
Ordinance number B 2020-03, an ordinance amending and adopting as amended an ordinance relating to chapter 96, street curbs and sidewalks of the city of Bardstown Code of Ordinances. The City Council of the City of Bardstown, Kentucky does ordain as follows. That amendments be made to chapter 96, streets, curbs, and sidewalks, section general provisions, construction and repair, and access control plan. Subsections 96.10, height of hedges, shrubbery restricted, 96.11, damaging curbing, pavement, or sidewalk unlawful, 96.32, sidewalk and curb and gutter replacement policy, and 96.72, general requirements for access control of the City of Bardstown's Code of Ordinances as follows. General provisions. Section 96.10, strike height of hedges, shrubbery restricted, insert mowing, tree trimming, and care of right-of-way. Striking subsections A and B and inserting the following subsections for A and B. A property owner or other person in possession or control of the property shall, number 1, cut, mow, and maintain all grass and weeds upon the right-of-way abutting the property to a uniform height not to exceed 12 inches. 2, trim trees within the right-of-way abutting the property so that such trees hang no lower than 14 feet over any sidewalk, right-of-way, or easement, no lower than 8 feet, no lower than 8 feet over any sidewalk, and so that limbs shall not interfere with ordinary pedestrian or vehicular travel or obstruct the light from street lamps. Number 3, trim and maintain any hedge or shrubbery abutting the right-of-way so that such hedge or shrubbery does not interfere with ordinary pedestrian or vehicular travel. No hedge or shrubbery shall be planted between the curb line / edge of pavement and the property line of any street within a radius of 20 feet from the point where the curb line / edge of pavement of any street intersects with the curb line / edge of pavement of another street. B, any property within the city, regardless of occupancy, shall be required to conform to these specifications. See Chapter 94, Nuisances, and Chapter 99, Tree Preservation for more information. Subsection 96.11, damaging curbing, pavement, or sidewalk unlawful. It shall be unlawful for any person, strike wantonly, carelessly, or maliciously to drive over, trespass upon, or in any way injure or damage any curbing, pavement, or sidewalk in the streets. Insert, to dig, break, displace, damage, or injure in any way any pavement, curbing, sidewalk, or any other portion of the city's right-of-way. The city shall notify any violator of any such violations and shall require corrective action. Whoever shall dig, break, displace, damage, or injure any curbing, pavement, sidewalk, or any other portion of the right-of-way shall replace the same according to city specifications within 21 days after damage has occurred, unless such time should be extended by the city in writing. If proper repairs are not made, the city may repair or contract to repair, and the violator shall be responsible for the costs incurred by the city for such repair. Any person, firm, or corporation who violates or fails to comply with any of this section shall be subject to the penalties listed in section 96.99, and in addition shall pay all costs and expenses involved in the case. Section 96.32, sidewalk, strike, and curb and gutter replacement policy. A, strike, the city will pay for part of the cost of replacing. Insert, it is the purpose of this section for the city and property owners to share equal costs in the repair and replacement of existing deteriorated concrete sidewalks within the city limits. Insert, the primary goal is to remediate sidewalks that present a tripping hazard in accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, Sidewalks that cross private drives and entrances are not subject to this replacement policy, as this falls under perpetual maintenance by the property owner for right-of-way encroachments, as stated in section 96.11, damaging curbing, pavement, or sidewalk unlawful. Any sidewalk or curb damage is not subject to the replacement policy. The city encourages property owners to replace concrete sidewalks with brick or other historic decorative surfaces in downtown and other appropriate areas. All city participation in sidewalk replacement must be specifically approved by the Office of the City Engineer. Insert number 1. The city shall calculate the cost for replacement reimbursement based on the fee schedule, encroachment, work, and land disturbance activities as approved by the governing body, hereafter referred to as the fee schedule. Sidewalk replacement must begin and end at concrete expansion joints. Insert section 2, where the city engineer, public works superintendent, or code enforcement officer identifies the existence of holes, uneven surfaces, or other defects in sidewalks or curb and gutter that creates a hazard to public safety. The owner of the property abutting the sidewalk/curb shall be notified in writing of the location and effective area, square feet, that must be replaced. Striking section B, insert property owners may choose one of the following replacement options. 1, replace the sidewalk in accordance with city specifications themselves or hire a contractor. A permit is required for property owners and/or contractors that will be performing any work within the right-of-way. Upon completion of the work, the permit will be released and the city will reimburse the property owner half the value of the work in accordance with the fee schedule. Where vehicular traffic is anticipated, the sidewalk shall be 6 inches thick. Number 2, send a written request to the Office of the City Engineer for City Public Works to replace the sidewalk and/or curb and gutter abutting their property. Upon completion of the work, the city will bill the property owner for half the cost of the sidewalk replacement, including labor and materials, based on the fee schedule. Payment will be due within 30 days of receipt. C, strike brick in the historic National Register Historic District. The city will reimburse the property owner $2.50 per square foot of brick on sand and $3 per square foot of brick on a 4-inch concrete slab installed per the city specifications. Insert, the city's reimbursement contribution shall not exceed $750 for properties with single frontage and $1,200 for properties with frontage on 2 sides. D, strike brick, insert, in the National Register Historic District and in the Central Business District, parentheses, both sides of the street in the 100 block of East and West Stephen Foster Avenue and East and West Flagey, around the Court Square, and the 1 and 200 block of North 3rd Street. The city will reimburse the property owner 1/2 the actual cost of brick sidewalk installed per the city specifications. In the Central Business District, all sidewalk replacements will be brick and/or other service material which has been approved by the Historic Review Board. Subsection E, strike, the owner may do the work and receive reimbursement if the finished job is done in accordance with specifications and is approved by the Office of the City Engineer. Insert, the policy described herein is not intended to apply to aesthetic concerns. Replacement refers to removal of the existing sidewalk, installing of the new walk, additional stone bedding as necessary, backfilling with topsoil, seed, and straw. F, the city reserves the right to determine the type of brick and other approved service material used in this program and to approve the cost estimate for the brickwork to be reimbursed at 1/2 cost. Section 96.72, general requirements for access control. B, driveway curb cuts. No one shall cut, build, or maintain a driveway across a curb, sidewalk, or a public street right-of-way without first obtaining a permit from the Office of the City Engineer. Driveway curb cuts shall meet the design and construction specifications described below. Number 5, the owner or tenant of lands fronting on public roads shall construct and keep in repair all approaches or driveways to and from the public road under the supervision of the Office of the City Engineer. No tenant or owner or tenant shall fill up any ditch or place anything in any ditch so as to interfere with the purposes for which it was made. Insert section 6. Any permitted driveway across a curb, sidewalk, or public street right-of-way, or any other permitted curb cut or encroachment on public right-of-way shall be perpetually maintained by the permit holder and property owner if different, or their successors and assigns. Insert paragraph 7. If determined by the city that motorist or pedestrian safety deficiencies develop as a result of the installation or use of the driveway, curb cut, or right-of-way encroachment, the permit holder and property owner, if different, or their successors and assigns, shall provide and bear the expenses to adjust, relocate, or reconstruct the facilities, or add other corrective measures reasonably deemed necessary by the city within a reasonable time after receipt of written notice of such deficiency. The period within which such adjustments, relocations, additions, modifications, or other corrective measures must be completed will be specified in the notice. All ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. This ordinance shall take effect and be enforced immediately upon its passage, approval, and publication as required by law. The summary was certified by the Audrey Hayden, City Attorney.
Jessica.
Now you see why we put it off.
There's a lot of work in it. All right, so, need a motion then to approve the 2020-2020-03 as it relates to Chapter 96 streets, curbs, and sidewalks.
Make that
Motion by Councilman Duffy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Doe, any other discussion? It's a second reading, so I ask for individual votes. All in favor, signify by saying aye, starting with Councilman Doe.
Aye.
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 The motion is carried. Audrey, you got a break for a while.
Just a minute.
Okay, now I'm going to call on Daniel Jeffries, our Recreation Department Director, and he's going to talk a little bit about the recent meeting, and he's got something to show us about some of the work that they've been doing, and some grants, and grant money that they've gotten. Daniel, the floor is yours.
You want to speak on the minutes, Councilman Roll?
I'd rather go ahead and give you that time, sir.
Appreciate that.
We got the minutes to read, so if we want to.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions on the minutes, we can go ahead and answer those. But I mainly wanted to show you guys our project that we've been working on. We received a Crumb Rubber grant through the state Department of Energy and Environment cabinets under Division of Waste. So this is kind of a summary of what all happened with our project. The whole project is called Revitalizing Recreation Through Recycling. So it's going to explain, well, it's not really, kind of the ins and outs of what was accomplished with the grant, what was purchased with the grant, what our expenses were. So the entire project was $26,853. We were awarded $18,000 for that as a 75-25 match. This money comes from when you get new tires for your vehicles or whatnot, the disposal fee. The Kentucky Waste Tire Program tries to get different ways to recycle those tires so they can keep them out of landfill. So they're doing this program, trying to entertain new ideas and whatnot to try to save our landfills. What we actually purchased with the $18,000 was 3 8-foot park benches, 9 8-foot picnic tables, 3 more tables that are picnic tables that are wheelchair accessible, and then 50 rubberific timbers, which is a landscape border that goes around the landscaping, and then 8 2,000-pound sacks of rubber mulch, from rubber mulch, which is quite a bit. This is our 25% match of portion of what we did. Most of ours is labor. You know, we had a few minor things we had purchased, the fabric, wheat fabric underneath, and plants and different things. Like I said, most of it is in the labor side of it. Drum rubber is from tires. They basically crush them up and screen them through, pull all the metal out of them, and make tons of different stuff with them. Kind of going along with the program. The mulch, they make mulch for landscape, mulch for playgrounds. They do sports fields. That's what's going to be on Bardstown's new field. The picnic tables and benches was actually a new project this year that they approved. But they make speed bumps, which are similar to the timbers that we put around the landscaping. Just benefits of crumb rubber as far as with landscape specifically, it suppresses weeds, It doesn't blow out with wind, it doesn't flood out with water. The water goes through it really easily. And we've got it set up quite a while at several locations and haven't had any issues with that at all. And you get bug resistant where you have issues with like a wood mulch, causing termites and things that you won't have with the tires. So, these are some pictures of what different areas look like. On the top two on the left is the pool house, the city pool, some of the landscaping there that have been there pretty much since the pool was built. And kind of redid all that because you can tell some of it's kind of overgrown and gotten out of sorts. The bottom right pictures as well are the pool. The bottom left picture is on Old Bloomfield Pike next to Allison Drive. That's actually is one of our trail entrances now to our nature trails in Bardstown Community Park. And the top right is the entrance to the trails from Bardstown Community Park. We'll show more pics of what it looks like now and to you, but the sign on the top left is out here out front in the little island area. The new pavilion there, Bardstown Community Park. The outside of this building here, you had the old picnic table out there and all the landscape that existed. There's some in front of the gym up in the top right. So kind of a dark picture. This is some of the pictures of work in progress. Everybody contributed to this project. We had I think it was 2 weeks, basically of full man hours that we put in. Once it's all added up for 3 people. More pictures of them working in the different areas. 2,000-pound sacks were fun to navigate to the different locations. Some pictures afterwards. The benches in the top left there, they're out in front of the gym here at the Recreation Department. And landscaping around the outside of this building. Showing kind of the black timbers around the edging as the rubberific timbers. They seem to work really well. Going back to the picture, like on Old Bloomfield Pike, the bottom right, where the right side pictures are what the trailhead entrance looks like now. With the landscape mulching around the kiosk there, that's going to have the map that shows you where all the trails are located. The new pavilion in between the parking lot and the pavilion itself is landscaped with flowers and rubber mulch now. It was just a gravel bed. That's what was there initially. And then the main trailhead entrance there on the left center. All set up with the extra tables as well. When people take a break once they're back from the trails. The new pool frontage there. We poured and extended the sidewalk pad there as well, out in front of the pool house. Whenever there was rain or anything of that nature, kids could sit under there now where they didn't have any shelter before. Just showing another picnic table there by the tennis courts in the Jones Avenue Park on the bottom right. You'll see the picnic tables that are spread out through the park, up by Jones Avenue Park, the playground up here by Don Harden Little League Field, the new landscape out here in the center island. And you probably, if you came inside entrance, you've seen the picnic tables out beside here. Kind of just showing what all we've done with the money. The department was pleased with what we've done, the improvements that were made. So we're going to hope to apply again future grants in this department, but they usually want to spread it out some, so we're going to wait a year or 2 before we reapply.
It's made a striking improvement to the looks of a lot of these facilities, and
Drastic improvement.
hopefully they can encourage a lot more use too.
Mm.
That's more
Absolutely.
clean and inviting. So
Absolutely. The tables are really nice. They do really well. It's better than the exposed or the expanded steel tables because you don't have all the holes in your feet. You can actually sit there easier. So some of the comments we've had.
Great job. And it's going to get sunny and warm here sooner or later when we can really get some use out of this.
I'm hoping so.
Thank you. Anyone have any other questions of Daniel on this project? Well done. And we'd be able to do all this in-house and really get the most out of the money. It was great. Great work on y'all's part. So thank you.
Saved a lot of budget money replacing tables that are in need of replacement. So.
Thank you very much. We'll move on then to new business. We have a municipal order M2020-02.
Can I explain this a little bit, Mayor, if you don't mind?
Sure.
So you all remember, I think at the last meeting we talked about, or Jessica had talked a little bit about the fee schedule, which correlates with one of the ordinances we just passed tonight. I mean, we voted on it and adopted it, but then after I thought about it, some poor city attorney down the road, maybe it's me, maybe it's somebody else, and the city clerk, when we need to amend this, it would be much easier to amend it and be able to reference the municipal order, whether that's, I don't know, it's been a long time since it's been, so maybe 20 years from now. But adopting it by municipal order, we thought it would be a little bit easier when it needs to be amended, instead of, the poor clerk trying to dig through the minutes to figure out would that happen. So we've considered it to be in effect, but we're just sort of formalizing it by way of this municipal order to clean that up, I think, for prosperity, for, future's sake, right? So.
You would you mind?
Yep, I'm happy to read it.
Read it.
Municipal order number M2020-02, whereas the city of Bardstown has previously adopted the fee schedule for encroachment work and lane disturbance activities, parentheses, the fee schedule, and whereas the fee schedule was amended on January 28, 2020 at a duly convened meeting of the Bardstown City Council, and whereas the city of Bardstown through this fee schedule supplements and provides pertinent fees relating to Chapter 96, streets, curbs, and sidewalks in the Code of Ordinances. Now therefore be it ordered that the city of Bardstown accept and adopt the fee schedule for encroachment work and lane disturbance activities as attached hereto. Introduced, seconded, and adopted at a duly convened meeting of the city of Bardstown, of the City Council of the city of Bardstown, held on February 11th, 2020, the fee schedule having been previously amended on January 28th, 2020 by unanimous vote of the city council.
Okay. We get a motion then to approve this municipal order per the recommendation of our city attorney on M2020-02.
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Hibbs. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Williams. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried. Next item under new business, we have two appointments this evening, actually reappointments. Brenda Ford is due for reappointment. She's agreed to serve another term, 4-year term on the Housing Authority Board, which her term expires tomorrow. So timely that we get her reappointed today. So can I have a motion to approve Brenda Ford to the Housing Authority? Motion by Councilman Hart, and a second. Councilman Buckland. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
If I could make one comment,
Yes.
she may change her name because she got married Saturday.
Okay, well, we've got this, and it's still forward.
No, I'm just letting you know. So later on, if somebody gets confused and they see a different name, it's because she got married.
Is she still forward right now?
Yeah, you can call it Ford.
Thank you for that update. So, all right, and then the second one, Rashay Jennings, who also obviously handles our historic review board. She's up for renewal for a 1-year term on the Wickham board. Her term will expire March the 10th. So I need a motion then to approve the reappointment of Rashay to the Wickham board.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Williams. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilwoman Hart. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion's carried. Any members of the council have anything to bring before the council or have any announcements?
I do, Mayor. I would like to join in with the city of Bardstown City Council and the mayor in congratulating our own Councilman Williams in receiving the Bardstown Optimist Club Frank Schultz Service to Youth Award. Thanks to Greg Ashworth sitting next to me, he gave me a little history on the Frank Schultz Award. Frank was a former Optimist Club president who was greatly involved in the community in youth events and passed away in 2013. So, you simply just have to mention the name Coach Rowe, and that brings to mind all he's done to champion and sponsor youth in our community. And I'd just like to join with the Optimist Club in congratulating him for this award.
Just to hear the last few days or last week or so?
Yeah, yesterday.
We got ahead of Jim Brooks. We got Jim Brooks to do information on Kentucky Standard. Okay. Congratulations. Well deserved. I want to thank you for all you're doing and just keep on helping us like you are.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And any other council members got anything to bring before us? Betty?
Just wanted to update you all. We had a coalition meeting on January the 30th. We had 36 people show up, which was absolutely wonderful to have that many people that wanted to be involved. A little overwhelming, but we got everybody divided into the different committees. There's 4 different committees and so we'll start having committee meetings, and then each committee will probably elect 2 people to serve on the main steering committee. So that's kind of the structure that we're going for. I've already had one of the people on one of the committees send me a project that she thinks would be a good project for our first one. So we're going to look at that.
Okay. Thank you for your continued work with that coalition. Anything else from the council members? Yes, Chief?
Just the council members would mark down September 30th at 8:30 a.m. Sorry to help me. We're going to be hosting the Chambers
2020 Connect.
2020 Connect at the new firehouse. We'd like to have everyone there. There'll be breakfast at the night.
That's a bad breakfast. Well, I think we said we were going to give you all a little room to schedule this, so I think you got plenty.
We're hoping the firehouse is done by then. That's why we picked that day.
All right. Well, thank you. I think that'd be a great way to introduce the community to I know we'll have something before that, but we get to spend a little more time there, maybe having breakfast. Thank you. Anything else? If not, we have a cemetery deed to Margaret Ross to purchase 2 grave sites that we can do by unanimous consent. And continuing with some good news, I want to call on Jessica Filiatch, who one of her pets that she's been working on for a while. She's got some good news here after a lot of hard work.
Yes, I feel like the community was starting to think that the path to nowhere was going to stay a path to nowhere along 245 after 2 bids that came in so far over budget that it just wasn't feasible to award. We scrapped our last plan and went back with an opportunity with a request to the Federal Highway Administration grant program if the city could use our forces, much like the rec department did, in-kind work. Can we use more in-kind work to try to get our overall bid prices down so that we can move forward with this project? And we finally got word via email on Friday that we were approved to do portions of that work with our own city forces. And hopefully we will get that actual paperwork this week sometime so that we can really see what's outlined, and you'll be seeing that come before you. Again, we'll have to go back through the bidding process and make sure that all those steps are followed. But again, the goal is for the city forces to do the excavation and lay the stone, and then bid out the actual laying of concrete and the asphalt pavement and any incidental conduit that needs to be laid for the pedestrian pedestals and the ramps and so forth. So we're hopeful that this approach will allow this project to actually move forward, and we will now be in probably a dead run to try to make all this happen with the paperwork so that we can meet the spring bidding season and try to capitalize on construction cycle that will, again, the state transportation cabinet was allowing us to extend our working hours because, again, we're along that state highway, and there are, again, lots of guidelines to try to minimize impact to traffic. But when school lets out, so again, we were allowed to get extended working hours if that work occurred during that summer break, so we weren't interfering with so much school traffic. So again, we'll be more to come on that. Hopefully the third time is the charm, and we can extend the multi-use path, hopefully at a minimum to Louisville Road, 31 East 3rd Street, and hopefully further along to even Chambers Boulevard with the new in-kind proposal with the grant monies that we've been allocated. So.
Remember right, was that grant like 560,000 or something like that?
That sounds correct. That sounds correct. It's been a while since I've looked at the number.
The opportunity to use that money for a very important project like this and to help connectivity in our community, and both walking as well as riding on that. So good work, Jessica. I mean, she didn't give up on that. She and Dylan have been really, besides all the other things going on, that was really some great news. And I will say, I think District 4 supported us really well in this effort. They kind of spoke on our behalf to try to convince the federal people that this is the right way to let us administer this. So.
In trying to find the best use of the taxpayer money and really get the most bang for our community, but knowing that it's such a strong, busy construction season and having only one bid each time, I think that was part of those high bids. But I wasn't satisfied just paying twice as much and getting half the path. We really wanted to try to get the most use of the community money, and felt that I'm very glad that they approved this approach so that we can better reach that goal for the community.
Good news, and the project was very much needed, and we look forward to hopefully seeing it completed by the end of this year. So, great.
It would be great to see it finished.
Thank you. Let's see, we're going to go into executive session, but before that, I just want to get a couple of announcements out of the way, one of which is related to the purchase and/or sale of property that we'd already taken action on. We have signed a purchase agreement with Simba Properties, Simba Properties LLC, which is the property at it's the corner of 3rd Street, and Broadway, where the Mayor's Park is right now. I think you're all familiar with that. So we've have a contract with Simba Properties for the amount of $375,000. That is under the appraisal that we got, which came in at $395,000. The amount of $375,000 is the exact amount that was paid for this property by Simba Property from the previous owners, which I think was back in 2013. So the owner's not making any profit on the sale of it, and also did remind me that he paid for the removal of a house that became, if you remember, that property was actually just 2 properties now that had been put together. There was a house on that had to be removed, so that's probably another $8,000 to $10,000 cost that he had incurred that he's not asking us to reimburse with his selling price. So we've got 30 days to do the investigation and another 45 days to close if there's any environmental concerns, as it was a former fuel station, and the title. Most of that's already been done. We've gotten a clean bill of health from the state environmental cabinet on that, going back to when Ball Brothers owned it as a service station. So that's good news, so it shouldn't interfere with our purchase of that. So just want to let you all know that that's moving forward, and we'll probably close before the 75-day period, since we're pretty far along on our due diligence. on
That's
that.
right about half an acre, isn't it?
Four
4.7 or 4.8?
But it's two, it was two tracks that are together now, so I don't remember the house.
Mayor, if I could ask a question about that house that was removed. Was that formerly the bus station and formerly a realtor's office?
It was a realtor's office. I don't know about the bus station. I can remember it.
I think it was a bus station.
Yeah. I can remember getting on a bus down on Flagey when I was a kid, riding to Louisville, so, to go to the dentist's office. Anyway, so that's just an announcement, which we weren't going to have to cover that in our executive session. The other thing, I'll go ahead and pass this out to the council members and also the press, and if you all indulge me to read it. We have a press release related to the missing funds and the improprieties with the financial irregularities with the city. I'll read this press release. It'll kind of cover what we've just been through to this point. And this press release is regarding the internal financial investigation update dated February 11th, 2020. The City of Bardstown has completed its internal investigation and audit regarding the financial irregularities that were discovered on September 18th, 2019. These findings have not been certified by the city's CPA and/or our annual audit for the fiscal year 2019-2020, so they're subject to a final audit. The results of our internal investigation have been turned over to the Kentucky State Police, who will conduct a criminal investigation into this matter. Specifically, the city's investigation found that beginning in April of 2013 and through September 18th of 2019, former CFO Tracy Hudson embezzled approximately $764,000 from the city of Bardstown. At this time, the city has recovered $134,000 in the funds that are in question. The city will monitor the Kentucky State Police investigation and will determine at a later date what additional legal steps to take in order to recover the remaining missing funds. Due to the ongoing nature of this investigation, there will be no further comment from myself or City Hall at this time due to the nature of the investigation by the Kentucky State Police. So we did want to update the media, who we know will update the community as to what the status of that is at this time. And that's all we have. So I'm going to need a motion to go out of the regular meeting and go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101B, which is deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency when publicity would be likely to affect the value of the property.
So moved, Mayor.
We have a motion, Councilman Williams. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are going out of the regular meeting, going into executive session. For the media and all the other staff that really is not necessarily involved, we will not be taking any official action on anything. This will be information only session, so anybody that would like to head on home after this long meeting, you're all welcome to do so. So, the purchase agreement is about the only thing that might have been discussed that we would have announced later, so I cut y'all some slack. Thank you.